Well, when you're an artist, a label, or a band, and you hear the word plating, that refers to the first industrial step of producing a record after we cut a master on a lacquer or a master is cut by a DMM source on copper. It has to be turned into the parts that go into a record press to physically make the record. So those parts that go into the press, those are called stampers. And so this part that I have in my hand right now, this is a stamper. You can see the edges are uh, are molded over. There's a specific spot in the center where it's made to attach to the record press. And this is one side of a record right here. So a record press has two sides. Think of it like kind of like a waffle iron where it squishes everything and the plastic flows into all of the grooves and creates the record. So the stamper is kind of the final product that comes out of the plating process. Technically it's probably what's called electroforming is what the name is. And so when we send a lacquer to a plating facility, the first thing that happens is that it's sprayed with a silver compound and it undergoes a chemical reaction to make that lacquer conductive to electricity. So then it goes through a pre-plating process, and then they have to make what's called the master. So the master, if you think about our lacquer being a positive image, something you can put on a turntable and play, the master would be a negative image. It would have ridges on it instead of grooves. So the master then goes back into the tank in what's called the master mother process, and then they make what's called the mother. So the mother looks like this. It's a little bit more crude looking. You can see it's flexible. It's very sharp, and it's fragile to a certain extent. They even do things like they solder a brass washer in here to make this hole more durable while it goes through all the rest of the plating process. So a mother like this is another positive image. I can physically put this on a turntable and you can play this. And certain plating shops do indeed, when these come out of the tank and they crack them apart, they put them on a turntable and they check it to make sure that the mother is clean, meaning that it has a minimum of pops and ticks and other flaws in it. So if it passes quality control, it goes into the next process then, which would be to make a stamper from the mother. And eventually those are formed, kind of like this, and then they crack them apart and you have the stamper, and that goes to an individual at the plating facility. And they do the molding work, and they also do the center work to make it fit for whatever presses happen to be at the pressing plant that the record's being pressed at. Well, Gotta Groove obviously has been a pressing plant for over 13 years now, and just last year or earlier this year, they already had in the works plans to open their own electroforming or plating shop, and they had acquired some equipment and they were well in the process of getting that going in Columbus, Ohio. And then the opportunity came for them to acquire Nipro, which was a plating facility out in California. Well respected. The man Tom Gross that started Nipro years ago. He worked in the plating industry back in the 70s and the 80s, and then he moved into the optics industry. And when vinyl saw its resurgence, he got back into the plating industry, and they were plating probably, I think, since about 2017, 2018. They had been doing a lot of work for the domestic US market in terms of plating. Tom decided that he needed to move on to other projects, and he sold Nipro to Gotta Groove. And so Gotta Groove brought all of the equipment to Columbus and folded that into the facility that they were already working on in Columbus. And Nipro sent their highly trained staff to Columbus and trained the people at Gotta Groove to do the process. And I just got back from a visit last week to visit that facility, and I met the people working there. It's a ton of young, committed, well-trained people plating records. They care about what the final product sounds like. They listen to every single one of these mothers that comes out of the tank to make sure that it's acceptable. And Gotta Groove really, kind of solidifying their place in the industry with plating now available as well as high-quality pressing. Well, plating has a direct impact on the final sound of your record. Improper plating or low quality plating can result in distortion, swooshing sounds, ticks, pops, a whole variety of sonic nastiness that you don't want on your record. Quality plating involves things like listening to the mother. So the person who knows, the person who does the quality control knows whether this is a high quality stamp or is going to produce high quality stampers or not. So when you are looking for a pressing, most pressing plants in the United States right now do not have their own plating facilities. There's really only about 5 plating facilities in the United States. You have Mastercraft in New Jersey, you have Simcon in North Carolina, you have Got a Groove Electroforming in Electromastering Lab in Columbus, you have Welcome to 1979 in Nashville, you have RTI out in California, and Quality Record Pressing in Salina, Kansas. So if you're on the eastern half of the United States, you have some options, and all of those plants handle their plating a little bit differently. So if you are pressing a record through a pressing plant that's not RTI or not Quality Record Pressing, it would be a great idea to ask them who is doing your plating, just so you have a good idea as to where your lacquers are going once they're cut.